and the official hearing record. When you come up to testify, please speak clearly into the microphone. Tell us your name and spell your first and last name. To ensure we get an act, we will finish with a closing statement by the introducer. We'll be using 5 minutes light system for all testifiers. When you begin your testimony, light on the table will be green. When the yellow light comes on, you have 1 minute remaining, and the red light indicates you need to wrap up your final thought and stop. Question of the committee may follow. Also, committee members may come and go during the hearing. This has nothing to do with the importance of the bills being heard. It is just part of the process, as senators may have bills to introduce in other committees. A few final items to facilitate today's hearing. If you handouts or copies of your testimony, please bring up at least 10 copies and give them to the page. Please silence or turn off your cell phones. Verbal outbursts or applause are not permitted in the hearing room. Finally, procedures for all committee states that written position comments on a bill to be included in the record must be submitted by 8 a.m. the day of the hearing. The only acceptable method of submission is via the legislature's website at Nebraska Legislature. Written position letters will be included in the official hearing record, but only those testifying in person before the committee will be included on the committee sheet. The committee statement. I will now have the committee members with us today introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Oh. Senator Tom Grant, District 32, Fillmore Thayer, Jefferson, Slane, and southwestern Lancaster counties.
I'm Tom Jacobs, and I represent District 42, Lincoln, McPherson, Logan, Hooker, Thomas, and 3/4 of Perkins County.
John Kavanaugh, District 9, Midtown, Omaha.
Mike Moser, District 2, County, and most of Stanton County.
On my left, far left.
John Frederickson, represent District 20, which is in central West Omaha.
And last but arguably least, Julie Slama, District 1, Otonema, Johnson, Pawnee, and Richardson counties.
Sarah Mosher also serves as vice chair of the committee. Also assisting the committee today to my left is our legal counsel, Cindy Lamb, and to my far left is our committee clerk, Lori Bullertson. Our page for the committee is Ruby Kinsey. Thank you, Ruby, for being with us today. With that, we will have our first bill up. It's LB 1406. Welcome, Senator Sanders.
Thank you. Thank you for rearranging the agenda today. I've got to get to the government committee hearing to chair that. So good afternoon, Chairman Bostelman and members of the Natural Resource Committee. LB 1406 develops a special active duty non-resident the option to buy a park permit at the same cost of an active duty military resident. For example, if you're an active duty military member and was a resident of another state than Nebraska, yet they are stationed here in this state, the service member has the option to buy a park permit at the same cost of an active duty military resident of Nebraska.
Senator Sanders.
Yes.
Can you spell your name first, please?
I should know that. Reed Sanders, RITASANDERS.
Thank you.
LB 1406 is one simple way in which we as a state can honor our active duty military, ensuring that during their time here in Nebraska, they are provided the same benefits of a resident of the state of which they serve. Thank you, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Senator. Are questions from the committee members? Senator Frederickson.
Thank you, Chair Bostelman. Thank you, Senator Sanders, for being here and for introducing this bill. So one question I always have with these, and I think I heard you say this, so I just want to confirm, they will be required to purchase just at the same in-state, because my question for that always is I learned from Game and Parks, we get federal match dollars for amount of permits we sell. So because this is a purchase, I believe, maybe, but they're purchasing this as well, so that will count.
Correct. And I think someone after testified,
Perfect.
but this is something that came out of a couple of years of asking and working together to do something for active duty military and working with them at the parks. And they were able to bring this together and bring this to me that they agreed on.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other questions, Sarah Brandt?
Thank you, Chairman Bostelman. Thanks, Senator Sanders, for bringing this bill. Full disclosure, I have a daughter that's active service. And it seems like we do an awful lot for our veterans, which is great. But sometimes I think the active service people get ignored when they ship out. So this is a park entry permit, is that correct? And so when they go up to the window, does that apply to everybody in the car? What I'm saying is that they pay their $5 and however many people are in the car go through.
35. I believe so, but we have someone here from Parks that will answer those questions.
Okay. And then do you know how many other states do this?
I do not.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got. Thank you.
you.
Other questions? Seeing none, will you stay for closing?
I will not, so I'll waive closing. I'll go to my government
Okay.
committee hearing.
Thank you,
very
Senator
much.
Sanders. Next, we'd like to invite up anyone in support of LB 1406 to please step forward. If you're in support of 1406, please step forward and don't be shy. We'd like to move through this quickly, so love to hear your testimony, but please move up so we're ready to go. So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair Bostelman. My name is McIntosh, MCINTOSH, and I appear before you today on behalf of the National Guard Association of Nebraska in support. So we appreciate the many number of pro-veteran measures, including this one this year. Our only comment is to, we would ask the committee to consider extending this also to actively serving members of the National Guard and Reserves. So with any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee members?
Yes.
Sir Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman, and thanks for being here, Mr. McIntosh. How many folks are active National Guard?
Just under 5,000, about 4,700, I believe, currently.
Do you happen to know how many of them are not residents of Nebraska?
It's a pretty small portion. I would say less than 5%, but we do have quite a few people from units spread across the state. I know we have people from Kansas, from Iowa, Colorado that drive in.
Just trying to get our minds around in case we do want to do that.
Sure.
The dollar amount that would be for the remainder of it. But thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none,
Thank you.
thank you for your testimony. Other proponents for LB 1406, please step forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Chairman Bostelman, members of the Natural Resource Committee, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Fields, Jefffields. I'm the Parks Division Administrator for the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, 2200 North 33rd Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. I have the honor of overseeing Nebraska State Park System, which showcases greater standards. First and foremost, I want to express our gratitude to the brave men and women of the military who serve our country selflessly, often enduring at a reduced cost, is a small gesture of appreciation for their dedication and service. We understand there are several bills being proposed in this session that offer various discounts to past and present military personnel. As these are being discussed, we are committed to help find permit options that both honor our military personnel and allow us to provide our current level of service within our park areas. Currently, our agency offers resident hunting, fishing, and fur harvest permits to non-resident active military personnel stationed in Nebraska at a resident's cost. We also offer a lifetime vehicle park permit for disabled veterans at no cost. This bill would further extend opportunities to military personnel by allowing non-residents to purchase a resident permit at a resident permit cost. Park permit fees are essential for our operation and management of our park areas. Currently, 77% of our operational funds come from user fees, which include the park permit. So these user fees are essential to meeting the expectation of our visitors and maintaining our current level of service. LB 1406 would have minimal impacts to our state park system with LB 1406. In conclusion, we encourage you to support LB 1406 and extend this well-deserved benefit to our active military personnel. By doing so, we honor their service, promote outdoor recreation, recruit future residents of Nebraska, and strengthen the bonds between our military and civilian populations. We look forward to continuing to work with Senator Sanders on this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to extend the commission's support for 1406, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Do you have a position to adding in active duty out of state, National Guard or reserves?
We do not.
Okay. I just did the quick math. It's $8,225. Everybody. It's also applies to same day or 1 day passes. If somebody comes and they qualify for this and they don't get the reduced fee, is there a mechanism for them to recoup that? Send something in, or?
Are you talking the daily permit? Depending on the situation, but there's ways we can do that, yes.
Okay. Thinking people aren't going to be on notice right away.
Especially at the beginning of this.
All right, thank you.
Questions? On the National Guard, I guess the question would be, there's 47 in Nebraska, but if we go non-residents out of state, I guess my question would be, come back to visit that maybe as to how that might impact, and I don't think there's any way we track it, but does that have a different fiscal impact onto the bill is the only thing we can look at.
When we figured up for the fiscal impacts for the division, we were looking at basically non-resident and resident active military folks, and that number was around just a little over $62,000 impact for us. In terms of how that would affect us, we look at that as a manageable impact. That's something we could potentially absorb.
Okay, all right. Sarah Mosier.
I think your question was, how do you know if what if National Guard members from other states come here and want to be treated as a resident? They'd have to actually be assigned to a base in Nebraska, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so that would be a limiting factor right there. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in support of LB 1406, please step forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bostelman, members of the Natural Resource Committee. My name is John Winkler, JOHNWINKLER. I'm the General Manager of the Papio Missouri River Natural Resources District located in Omaha, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Nebraska Association of Resource Districts. First, I'd like to thank Senator Sanders for introducing this bill, and obviously you for giving me the opportunity to testify in support of it today. Currently, I'm a member of the Offutt Advisory Council, where I serve as the co-commander of the 30th Reconnaissance Squadron at Offutt Air Force Base. The OAC's mission is to support our men and women in uniform at Offutt Air Force Base. We hold several, they call Operation Giving Thanks, where we hand out free turkeys and hams during Thanksgiving and Christmas. We also have the Offutt Appreciation Day at Bellevue Berry Farm. We have over 12,000 military personnel and their families that come for free to the free food and free drinks, and then also the kids get to play on all the activities at the berry. We also do quite a bit of work with hosting. It's called the Airman's Addict, and not very many people know this, but there's actually a food bank that's located on the base, and that is there to support for folks E4 or below who can't make ends meet. And it's I guess a testament to some of the struggles that the lower grades are doing as far as trying to make ends meet with their family on military pay. There's over 500 folks that utilize that particular service at the base. It's all privately funded. through either the OAC or generous donations from the community in the Omaha metro area in the state of Nebraska. We are consistently reminded by brigadier generals to those E4 below that the state of Nebraska is bar none the best in the world for community support. And that's from Offutt or from any of the folks that I talk to. They hold up Offutt Air Force Base and the community support as the very best in the world for them. So we're very proud of that. And I think Nebraska should be proud of that support of the military. So again, you've heard that this would allow active duty military folks to get a park permit for the cost of a resident fee. I'd like to thank Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, especially their leadership, for considering this and working with Senator Sanders on this issue. I just think, again, like Senator Sanders says, it shows just another support for our military members and their families able to enjoy our parks and recreation. They're very limited on what they have available. Some of them can go to Base Lake, which is a small lake on the Missouri River. It's not a very good water quality. It's just not a very nice campground. Actually, the game parks facilities are beautiful around the state of Nebraska, and it would open them up to those folks to be able to enjoy those. So I would like to, again, thank the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission for considering this. I think it would be a great step to supporting our active duty members. The comment was made that we move a lot, which we should, but sometimes the active duty folks can get overlooked. So I even put out a proposal to Game and Parks that this would probably eat the permit fees that active duty folks would purchase, because they would have that ability to get the resident fee. So be happy to answer any questions you have, and I thank you for your support.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Winkler. The questions? Question would be, NRDs doing the same thing, because NRDs have their own facilities as well that you have to.
So the NRDs do not charge a park permit to enter their facilities,
So they charge for.
at least in the patio.
Camping.
At least in the patio. Yeah, for
I'm
camping.
not so sure if at Wanahoo, if they do or not.
Wanahoo is that's their own, but as far as patios are all free.
So I understand, but I'm just NRDs in general.
We'll
Okay,
bring it
if
up
we
to them.
do state parks, then what about our NRD facilities as well?
Well, I'll go to the Wanahoo board next. But yeah, but all the patios are free. Well, they pay for camping, but not for the enter the facility.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else would like to testify in support of LB 1406? Seeing none, anyone would like to testify in opposition to LB 1406? Seeing none, anyone would like to testify in neutral capacity for 1406? Seeing none, that will close the hearing on LB 1406. We did receive one comment, proponent, and that will close the hearing on LB 1406. Our next hearing up will be LB 979. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bostelman and the Natural Resources Committee. My name is Lauren Lippincott. That's Loren Lippincott. And I'm here representing District 34. LB 971 seeks to recognize and honor our veterans by creating a one-day hunting license for November the 11th, Veterans Day, at a reduced cost. The bill asks the Nebraska Game and Parks to create a hunting license for this day, Veterans Day, and provide it free of charge to any veteran who proves an honorable discharge. This would remove the $18 small game hunting permit fee. As you see in the fiscal note, there would be no financial impact. The license would only be for small game, including squirrel, pheasant, snipe, crow, and other webless migratory birds and waterfowl. Other costs would still be associated, as a veteran would still pay for a habitat stamp, which is $25, with an additional cost of $10 of hunting waterfowl for a Nebraska waterfowl stamp. There would also be a federal cost listed in the fiscal note of $30 for a federal duck stamp if hunting duck. However, see in the fiscal note, I have a fix or an amendment which I have for you, which would include language for the 2 stamps on page 3, line 12, asking the department to also waive the cost of the 2 stamps as well. Our goal is not to risk any federal funding through conversation with the department. My understanding is that this change would be minimal and not put anything at risk. My desire is to create a way for us to hunt free on Veterans Day with proper permits and stamps. And I think this is a small ask for valued members of our country and communities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Senator Lippincott. Other questions from committee members? Senator Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Bostelman. Senator Lippincott, I guess there's not a fiscal note, so I'm assuming for them to issue that permit, are they actually issuing it, or how do they, because I assume there'd be some cost to issuing that 1-day permit. And so they just, do they actually have a permit for the day, or do they actually?
Penciled in the amendment, and I left it just penciled in so it'd be a little bit more clear as to what the amendment would be, but that does address the cost. And if you just kind of read along with me there on line 12, it says, the commission shall issue a 1-day hunting permit, and then you've got another caret there. It says habitat stamp and the Nebraska migratory waterfowl stamp. And then it goes on, and then down in line number 15, a permit and stamps. So there should be no cost to the veteran with the amendment. And it also will not impact money.
But would the state, would Game and Parks have some cost to issue that? Is that, there would be some cost to them, I assume?
That can be answered a little bit more in depth.
I'll wait for them. I'll answer in their testimony if they're going to give some, but I assume they will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions? Do you see the stamps somehow just being a 1-day stamp? Because once, if I buy a habitat stamp or I receive a habitat stamp, it's for that calendar, for that year. So do you see this as being somehow the permit somehow would close, the game department has something down there that shows that these fees are waived for those specific stamps for that day? Because if you give them the stamp, you can't take it back.
Yep.
So
Should be for just 1 day, Veterans Day.
right, I understand that, but do you see that as just, I'll ask for.
Yeah, the logistics, the specifics of it, may want to discuss that with Game and Parks. The intent is just for 1 day.
Understand. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, will you stay for closing? Can you stay for close?
I'll probably waive because I need to get back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ringer. Thank you. Thanks for the bill.
Thank you,
All right.
sir.
You bet. Proponents for LB 971, please step forward. Afternoon, Director McCoy.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bostelman and members of the Natural Resources Committee. My name is Timothy McCoy, Timothy McCoy, and I'm the Director of the Game and Parks Commission at 2000 North 33rd Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm primarily going to say a couple of things. I think this is something that's very doable within our current permit system. There will be some time that it will take to make sure that veterans get their information in there so they can get their free permit. Once they are in our system, their whole profile will include that. So there may be a little bit of time that somebody does this. The other thing that we look at with this is not a season-long permit or season-long stamps. We would set these up. It gives us the ability to do regulations. We would identify a 1-day stamp list per the regs, just so that it matches up. The other thing, we think there's a good opportunity to honor veterans. We may get some more veterans interested out in the outdoors, and they may turn into permit buyers. So that's, our current fiscal analysis the first time, without the stamps was really not not a revenue issue on that hunting side. And we don't think on the stamp size it will cause that either, because the way the proposed language is, it's a 1 day permit, and habitat stamp and what else.
Have you seen his proposed writing for amendment?
Yeah, I think those are the notes that I shared this morning.
Okay, well, if you didn't, you could.
I've got a copy of that. So yeah, we want to work with on this. Senator had brought this up last year when we had met before appropriations hearings, and it was, I think it's something that's doable. It's a good thing to do, and it's a great way to all veteran topic.
Thank you, Director McCoy. I'm pleased if you're comfortable that you can work it out. If you can get somebody to go try it. I don't want to sound like a drug dealer, but if you can get them to try it and get them hooked on they may very well be back buying permits and doing this more and more. And I think the hearing you say is that you don't have any problems with the logistics of making this happen.
So according to our permits team, they think there's a pretty easy way within our permit system to do the hunt with the stamps so that it would all be tied together. It'd be fairly simple.
Perfect. Thank you.
Senator Brandt.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Director McCoy, for appearing today. So on November 11th, which seasons are open that they would qualify for?
It would be pretty much all small game seasons are open. So pheasants, quail, squirrel, rabbit, all the other small game species. Waterfowl seasons are open on the 11th also. So they would have waterfowl hunting opportunities. So ducks and geese. So those are pretty much all of the seasons we have for small game and waterfowl are open at that point in time.
All right. Thank you.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for being here, Mr. McCoy. As to the stamp part, we kind of talked about this last time you were here about does that implicate federal funds in some way?
The only potential impact would be you can't count a free permit for the dollars we get back through wildlife and sport fish restoration. But we know that going in. And because it's really only a 1 day permit, we think that there's the likelihood we may get some gain. There may be some benefits to this beyond it. The other thing is until you do something like this, you don't know what the numbers are that you will get for a 1 day. Obviously, any of those veterans that already have permits, which there are a number of them, may choose to hunt that day just because it's sort of got that special honor with it.
Maybe they'll get a
And
friend
they
to go
wouldn't
with
need
them.
it. They wouldn't need a free permit. Anybody who's already got one or has one of our lifetime disabled permits, the system we would make sure in our information that we make that clear that they don't have to go get this special permit.
And I guess forgive my ignorance about hunting, but if the weather conditions on that 1 day are not conducive to hunting, would there be an opportunity to move it to a different day or a weekend, or is that you'd be
I don't think that's predictable.
of course, it wouldn't be predictable. That's what it's in the statute. I guess, is that even a concern? Are there days that are just the weather's so unpleasant that nobody would hunt, or?
That's we're just looking at it the way it's built. I don't think we would have the capability to be able to, on the fly, shift those dates around. I think it would cause a lot of confusion.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Bostelman. Thank you for being here and for testifying. I am always wondering about federal match dollars. Does this have any implication on that, or do you anticipate that? Or
it wouldn't have, because it's not bringing any revenue. It would not. We don't think it's going to be a significant impact to our revenue that we use to match the federal dollars.
Okay.
And because it's a free permit, we cannot count them as a licensed buyer. So it doesn't. Having this 1 day license doesn't create some strange bump in that arena.
Got it.
But I do think it's very manageable.
So you don't think it compromises our ability to get federal
I,
funds?
it doesn't compromise our ability at all. We have other free permits like we have a veteran lifetime permit for any veterans that are disabled over 50%. It doesn't impact, the only impact is we can't count the simple impact is you can't count them for 100. That's it.
Got it.
It doesn't change our ability to get to match those federal funds or to be able to get them.
Thank you.
Sir, Moser?
Some of the worst weather days ever were some of the best days hunting that I've had.
If they're waterfowl hunters, sometimes the waterfowl hunting is better on cruddier days. If it will.
Well, you got tracks to follow if there's snow, you got.
So a question would be on the, since it's come up November 11th for this year. Last year, 2 years ago, when we set up the landowner deer permit the weekend before, you had to come to one of your offices to actually purchase the permit. Are you good? And I think that may have changed now to be online.
I believe they can now submit their veterans information, but the landowner now can go online to those early landowner seasons with our new permit system.
So that's where an intent with this be eventually to move to that where we're doing it online.
Yeah, our intent would be to.
But how are we going to determine the?
Well, normally there's a way now they can, in the system that we have, they can upload either their DD, I can't remember the last number. The other thing that they can provide is if they have a veteran, an ID that shows their veteran status.
Okay. Other questions?
And we would do that in regulations.
One note on a on 1406, I did mention to Sir Sanders' staff, it's not necessarily clear in statute if you have to be assigned station in Nebraska or not. You may want to look at that. Just
yeah, so we'll definitely work with that.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Others would like to testify in support of LB 971, please step forward.
Afternoon again, Chair Bostelman, members of the committee. My name is Ryan McIntosh, MCINTOSH, and I appear today before you on behalf of the National Guard Association of Nebraska in support of LB 971. And I don't have a whole lot to add. I've submitted comments to this committee on previous bills. We appreciate really all the folks that's going on with veterans, the military, and the outdoors. There's been a huge movement nationally with AFI and other organizations to bring veterans together to help transition back to civilian life via the means of outdoors hunting, outdoor sports. And so I think this is a great effort. To Senator Moser's comment, I can't imagine weather bad enough that I would miss opening day of upland season. So I don't foresee that being an issue. Veterans Day is a national holiday. And so I think it is a great day. So thank you for your consideration of this and the other bills that are before this committee. And very much thanks to Director McCoy and the Game and Parks for the efforts that are being undertaken this year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Others like to testify in support of LB 971? Seeing none, anyone like to testify in opposition to LB 971? Seeing none, anyone like to testify in neutral capacity in LB 971? With that, that'll close our hearing on LB 971. We did receive one comment, one proponent on LB 971. We'll turn over to Senator Moser for our last bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For LB 867, we received one proponent online comment. Senator Bostelman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vice Chairman Mosier, members of the Natural Resources Committee. My name is Bruce Bostelman, spelled BRUCEDOSTL, and I represent Legislative District 23. I'm here today to introduce LB 867. The bill creates a voluntary online database of hunting and fishing guides and outfitters created by Nebraska Game and Parks. Funding this based on the amount needed to defray the cost of development and maintenance of the database. The purpose of this bill is to provide the public with a database list of hunting and fishing guides and outfitters with trusted businesses so the public can have some level of assurance that the guide or outfitter knows and complies with state and federal laws. Anyone interested in hiring a guide or outfitter could simply pull up the database, guide or outfitter that they may be interested in and research them. Simply, guides and outfitters may also advertise that they are on the, similarly, guides and outfitters may also advertise that they are on the Game and Parks database. Just in the past few years, we have seen a few high-profile cases in Nebraska involving guides or outfitters who have been indicted for or convicted of several violations of state and federal laws. Similarly, their customers have also been indicted for charges similar to the guides that misled them. Early in 2021, a hunting outfitter from Broken Bow was sentenced in federal court for several violations of federal Lacey Act, which combats the trafficking of illegal taken wildlife. In court, the individual admitted that between 2013 and 2018, they had provided hunting guide services to 118 individuals from 21 different states, which resulted in the unlawful taking of 97 deer or turkey. As of January 2021, 36 defendants had pled guilty and had been sentenced for the 97 illegal takings. What I am proposing will provide some assurances that the guide or outfitter that the person has met certain requirements. First, to qualify, they have never been convicted of a felony, violated any state or federal game laws within 3 years, and have never violated the Interstate Wildlife Violator Compact. Next, they must provide proof of adequate liability insurance or a similar bond security. They must register business in the state and agree to comply with any other requirements established by the game law by the commission. Finally, any hunting guide or outfitter must complete a commission-sponsored hunter education program or similar program approved by the commission for the hunting side. This database can help ensure individuals interested in hunting or hiring a guide or outfitter in Nebraska that the individual be compliant with all federal and state laws as well. The bill does not apply to licensees of licensed game breeding or controlled shooting areas. I ask for the court of LBC and advancements to a general file. I'll take any questions they may have. Thank you.
Looks like you're off the hook for questions. Thank you. Anybody here to speak in favor of LB 867? If you could come forward, please. Greetings.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Moser and members of the committee. My name is Timothy McCoy, TIMOTHY, MCCOY, and I'm the Director of the Game and Parks Commission at our headquarters office, 2200 North 33rd Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. We support this effort by Senator Bostelman. He invited us in as this was being discussed. We think it's a start of a way to help provide a way that somebody who's coming to Nebraska and kind of check out who their guide and outfitter is. Our initial review was that this would probably have minimal costs. There will be some staff costs. Those weren't really identified by our law enforcement team that would be engaged in this, because there would be some time in going through making sure they've got complete applications. The other thing is we probably need to tweak the language on the Interstate Wildlife Violator Compact, because really what that does is identifies anybody whose hunting or fishing rights are suspended in not just in Nebraska, but in other states. And so that would be a very small change. We want to work with Senator Bostelman on this. In terms of the conversations with my law enforcement team, they think it's a step. They obviously deal with some of these big cases. There's interest at some point of, do we really go all the way of licensing guides and outfitters? However, I think it's really unlikely in the current climate that creating a new license or requirement for a group of people who haven't been licensed before may be pretty challenging. So we do see this as a stepwise approach. Hopefully we can improve some of the performance of our guides and outfitters. The other thing about this listing is they also have to be identified as a business in the state of Nebraska. I know from concerns that have been raised from some of our law folks, some of the really bad actors are primarily running on cash transactions and likely aren't reporting that.
Questions for Mr. McCoy? Senator Brandt.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you for testifying on this. To be an outfitter or a guide today, is there a fee to do that, or can I just put an ad in Facebook that says I'm a guide?
There's no guides or requirements that are tied with somebody hanging up their shingle as a hunting or fishing guide in Nebraska.
No framework.
There's no framework. This is the start of trying to at least look at a voluntary framework to see if we can incentivize, especially incentivize those that are doing things right, because there are guides and outfitters that are pretty frustrated about some of the black eyes they've got in some of these cases.
Do they have an association?
I do not know. I know 15 years ago, there was a small association, but there was disagreement within it, and I don't know if they're still active. We don't hear from them, so I don't think they have.
My concern, and one of these incidents has happened in our district down there, of a guide or an outfitter. We have a tremendous people that come to hunt deer. The public is actually your best friend, because now you've got somebody making a tremendous amount of money other into your area, unregulated in a sense, and then pretty soon they're doing things unethically. And I think part of this needs to be that the public becomes aware of what a guide or an outfitter should be. And just because somebody is calling themselves out, and I don't know, I think, what are the other steps after we do this step? What does Game and Parks envision this leading up to?
Well, I can talk to it from the long-term view of our law enforcement team that's primarily dealing with these, and that would be to, there's a couple of different options. One would be to try and directly get into the licensing guides and outfitters. Another suggestion that they have made in Nebraska that we don't have, that some other states have, is a felony provision for really egregious issues with guides and outfitters, where they're dealing with the liquidated damage. That would be a bigger step. That'd take some work with a bigger team, probably include judiciary, I would assume. And the other one is, or you go create a requirement for licensing. There's some other wrinkles with that of who is determined to be a guide and who is not. Is somebody who's renting a farmhouse to people in the gig, because they, really trying to make sure that we narrow that down in a way that really is focused. Same thing could apply in fishing to somebody who rents out a fishing boat. So that's one of the reasons to start like this, I think, to kind of see how this goes, see if we can get better voluntary compliance among the guides and outfitters. Would be huge.
So could this include things like kayaks, getting people to the outdoors, not just on hunting, but also, let's say, guide to do kayaking down the rivers?
There are already a lot of those sorts of folks that are doing that as a business. We weren't envisioning they would fall in this because this is rarely focused right now on the hunting and fishing side.
All right, thank you.
So typically, these guides require the hunter to get their own permits? I mean, do they coach them how to get them, or there's no way for them to buy permits for the?
Correct. They have the hunter, whoever's coming has to buy their own permits.
And some of those are not freely available necessarily. I mean, sometimes you have to enter a lottery or
Correct. Yeah,
wait your turn somehow.
Yeah, you have to draw a permit, or you have to, some of it's like our elk permits. Currently, we don't have, other than non-resident landowners, we don't have general non-resident elk permits available because the demand we have from residents is probably 4 times beyond the bull elk permits that we put out in a year. So.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions. Other people who want to speak in support of LB 67?
Good afternoon, esteemed senators. My name is John Heaston, John Heaston, and I am the executive director of the Nebraska Sportsman's Foundation. I would first like to tell Senator Kavanaugh this year is going to be my 40th year hunting deer in the state of Nebraska. I've done it in 30 inches of snow, and I've done it on 70-degree days with 80-mile-an-hour winds. And the worst day in the field is still better than the best day at work. But I'm here to testify in support of LB 867 as a representative of the sportsmen and women of the state of Nebraska. We all embrace the ideal of being ethical outdoors in everything that we do, hunting, fishing, trapping, shooting sports. And we know that our values will be judged by the least of us. And so when there are bad actors in the system, it reflects poorly on everyone who hunts, fishes, and traps. And so this bill, we feel, is a way to begin the conversation to do 2 things. One, to recognize the good actors, outfitting and guide service is a growing industry in the state. I have been working with Senator Bostelman and his staff for the last 6 months to try to get our hands around what this is. And I'm still every day discovering new businesses operating within the state of Nebraska listed as a guide or an outfitter. There's a lot. And they kind of come and go. They can be as small as a one-man operation or as big as a division within the Cabela's Bass Pro Shop umbrella. That said, our state has long been a great place to hunt, fish, and trap. And over the years, we've seen this passion become an industry, and that brings countless dollars, brings a tremendous amount of income and revenue in terms of food, lodging, secondary tourism resulting. I've had a lot of people that come to hunt and come back for the other things that they saw while they were here. So our guides and outfitters are great ambassadors for our tourism and state profile. And so being able to help be recognized as legitimate businesses and good actors on that larger scale and provide a resource that when people are booking that hunt of a lifetime or that fishing trip with kids, that they know that they're working with a good faith actor, as Senator Bostelman laid out and as Director McCoy reiterated, having your no violations, having your permitting in order is already. And I think that this bill is a really critical first step into creating a better system down the road. I've looked at a lot of different states and how they do their outfitters and guides, and I haven't gone through all 50 states yet, but every state has a little bit different way of doing it. Some are very, very involved some are pretty simple. But I think this has to be the first step, is to find out who's there. And so I again want to echo my support for this bill and ask that you move it to vote. And help us to help. Michigan is just in the process of adopting a new framework for this. I've talked with some folks from Illinois. They have a very well-established system with their Department of Natural Resources, where all guides and outfitters who want to be certified by the state, they pay a fee, they carry a license, and it entails a certain number of activities that they have satisfied for the state as a legitimate company. Alaska has very similar. Wyoming as well. I'm not sure those are models that we want to follow, because they also, the outfitters up there tend to want to have control of permit issuance so they can guarantee their customers permits. And I think, and working with Game and Parks and with Senator Bostelman, we all are in agreement, and I know my constituency is in agreement with this. We don't restrict access to permits to the average individual for the benefit of out-of-state industry. There has to, if we end up in state residents can't get permits for going to guide services, that's going to create a problem. But there's material for us to reference on this. But I think in echoing the statements that have already been made, we have somewhere. And I think this is the best first step for us all.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mosier. Thanks for being here. And you might be characterized as a real hunter, per Mr. Senator Jacobson's comments. But I'd be happy to get out sometime. I told Senator Jacobson I took hunter safety with a bunch of 8-year-olds when I was 3. So I'm appropriately trained, at least.
Well, I've been real hunting just south of Senator Jacobson's district since I was about 8 years old. So about where every rock on Medicine Creek is. But you represent an audience that we want to have a better connection to, and that is the urban outdoor folks that didn't come up in a hunting tradition but want to learn to do that. And a lot of times their first contact with that would be to use a guide or an outfit service. And so we want that experience to be positive for them to be hunters and fishers and trappers into the future and have their kids do it as well. And it's something that those of us that grew up with it are taking granted, but there's a lot of people out there that didn't have that. And so, you see a lot of people trying to get into it as adults and they don't know where to go. And so a lot of times they'll go on a Boundary Waters fishing trip with dad up to Canada, or and then they come back and they're ready to do it again and don't know how or where to do it or who to trust to do it. And so I think having this as a Rosetta Stone would be very helpful for those who want to do these activities, but those who also want to provide it as a service.
Thank you.
I told my dad I wanted to go hunting with some of my buddies and had no training whatsoever. He loaned me his pump shotgun. His only advice was, don't get it rusty. What happens if you're fishing on Missouri, and that's the boundary between South Dakota and Nebraska, right? So, and you wander closer to South Dakota, or there's, is it a Wahi that goes up into, right?
Yeah.
So do you have to have a permit from South Dakota?
If you're on the main stem of the Missouri, I think your Nebraska permit allows you to fish. You can't step out on the bank of South Dakota side and be legal, but as long as you're in the water, your Nebraska permit is good bank to bank. Tim behind me will let me know if I'm wrong on that.
That's some pretty good fishing from what I hear.
Yeah. And there's quite a few outfitters that that's their main job, is taking people up and down the Missouri to fish.
I see pictures on Facebook all the time, big stringers, everybody smiling, and it looks like a lot of fun. Other questions? Thank you very much for your
All
testimony.
right, thank you for having me.
Sure, you're a light load, come back again. Okay, anybody else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Any neutral? Seeing none. Senator Bostelman, welcome back.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mosier. Hopefully, Senator Brandt answer the questions that you had. This is at least your ground to Senator Jacobson. It doesn't apply for that because you're not guiding, right? This is about legitimate businesses, getting legitimate businesses in the state, getting them stand out and make the game laws, the fish laws, those type of things. When I go to other states to hunt or fish, most of those places have a guide and outfitting association. Those are professionals that are really involved with things. What we're talking about here is good to figure out, like John had said, to get a start and give them that opportunity to those good businesses out there, some visibility and people to contact. You know, have someone from out of state or in state. You know, go fishing in McConaughey. Who do you want to go fishing with? You got a boat? No, but you want to find somebody who does. There's a guide out in McConaughey. You'd have to look it up. You can research them. That's what it's about. Is to get that start. Is to get that information. As you know, sharing the good life, or outdoors with people and doing it the right way.
Senator Brandt.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So this guide, is this a pamphlet or a book that's put out every year, or is this just online?
This will be developed by Game Week. I mean, right now we'll see. As John had said, we're still finding out who's out there. So right now it's going to be, I think it'd just be online, but then how does that grow? How does that develop? Part of that is what Game and Parks to do, is to develop that as the need arises.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Senator, thank you. That will conclude our hearing today. Thank you for attending.